She played me. Big mistake. Get your feelings out of it, Jazz. That was my big mistake. She has so many excuses, honey. Hi family, welcome to my channel. My name is Jasmine. I'm a registered nurse and an entrepreneur, so I like to call myself a nursepreneur. If this is your first time here, welcome. I invite you to subscribe to this channel, give it a thumbs up, share it with your peoples. If this is not your first time, welcome back family. Hey girl, hey dude. Today what I will be sharing with you is my experience on firing my assistant. I've had several assistants over the years. I never had to fire one. If I wanted to stop working with them, I usually would not renew their contract. That's how that would work. I would not renew their contract after I paid them up for the month or 3 months or whatever we agreed on. I would just not continue. I had to terminate this person's contract, and for the sake of this video, we're gonna call her Candace. I've had 3 social media managers. I still have one now. I've had 2 ads managers. I have one now. Candace was my ads manager who I had to fire. I've had an email manager. I've had freelancers, which are like photographers, videographers, people you hire on Fiverr to perform a certain service, like a graphic designer or a web designer. I now have a multimedia editor, and he takes care of all of that. He's editing this YouTube today. He's gonna create the thumbnail, so I don't have to do a video editor, a graphic designer, someone who could design my flyers. He does all my graphics. I love you, Franklin. But today we're talking about how I had to fire my ads manager, Candace. So it sounds like such a simple task. Just tell her you fired. Just tell her, stop paying her. I wanted to go about this in a professional way. I just didn't know what to do. How to say it, and I didn't want to sound aggressive. I didn't want to be mean. I didn't want to curse. She wasn't necessarily mean to me either. It just wasn't working. The outcome wasn't what I expected. She wasn't completing her task. It wasn't fair to me and my business if I continued to pay her. I don't know how to even initiate this conversation, how to bring it up. I YouTubed it. And one of the things that it said was, the moment you feel like you need to fire someone is usually when you need to do it. Not giving them extra chances. You may have needed to fire them 2 weeks ago, but the moment it comes to your mind is the time you need to fire them. I did not do that. I probably had her around for 3 or 4 more weeks after I knew this wasn't working. Again, she was my ads manager. This was my first time ever having an ads manager. I'm still learning myself to get better at running my own social media ads, Facebook ads and things like that, and Instagram ads. So I said, let me just hire somebody who's better at it than me. I interviewed her alongside with another guy, and I felt more connected with her personally. Big mistake. Get your feelings out of it, Jazz. That was my big mistake. I felt closer with her, like, oh, okay, you seem like a good person to work along with. She was a female, so obviously it's probably easier for us to bond versus the guy. So I went with her. We chatted up a little bit in the email, and it just felt really good. So I was like, all right, let me just go with her. She played me, okay? She pulled on my heartstrings. She pulled on my emotions. She knew I was a registered nurse. She had excuses from the beginning. She had excuses about why she couldn't start on the first day. The excuse she originally gave me is her child had to go into the hospital. So I'm like, oh my God, what happened to your kid? Da, da, da. Now, of course, she knows I'm a nurse. So that, first of all, that's traumatic. There was an accident with her child. She said her child was burnt in the house. And I'm like, okay. Yeah, take your child to the hospital, take care of that. Also, she is in another country. She's in a third world country. And I was also concerned, like, money is hard here in America. I can only imagine like what it'll be like if I fire her. I don't want to put her in a bad situation financially. Her child's in the hospital. I can only imagine the anxiety she's going through, right? Let's see. She started 2 weeks after we agreed for her to start because her child was in the hospital for a burn. She has so many excuses, honey. After that, her computer got hacked. It slowed her down. She couldn't work again. I'm trying to give her more time. And then we started talking. We started talking more about what I need done. Mind you, at this time, I was a lot more naive about running ads and what it took and what the back office looked like. It really used to scare the hell out of me. So she's like, okay, well, first we got to warm up the audience, and I'm looking at these competitors that you sent me, and I'm studying their campaigns, and I'm studying this. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's what you did already. Okay, well, I'll still pay you for the week. Not knowing this is not a thing. Like, it is a thing, but it's not a thing that takes a whole week of work. She was hired for 10 hours a week just to run the ads, get them in front of the right people, run sales, you know, certain products, work off the pixel on my website that I already set up. She had so many excuses. Me being gullible, I'm just like, okay, well, that's how it works. That's what you have to do today. This is what you spent your 10 hours this week on, researching my competitors and warming up my audience and optimizing my pixel. Bullshit. Now, I had signed a 3-month contract with her. She was with me for 6 weeks. During this time, I feel as though, well, I know she overlooked my request. She didn't do things specific for my brand. That is something you sometimes have to look out for when you are hiring people to work in your business. They have experience working with other people, so they feel like they can copy paste and cookie cutter everything, but like, no, my brand is unique. My audience is unique. This is not gonna work for y'all. You know, my audience at that time was Black women in their 30s and 40s. You need to speak the language. We need to get it in front of them. You know, what all these other people in hair business and, you know, salons and Pantene, Pro V, and that is not my audience. That is not my audience. They don't speak that language. You're not listening to me. So I feel like she overlooked what my personal request for and what my brand's identity was. It also became very challenging to get her on our Zoom. She will always complain of connectivity issues. It was issues with her internet, and the Wi-Fi was there. They was having a storm in her country, and it was flooding, and it was all of these things going on. And I literally started following the weather there. Like, doesn't look like it. And I have other assistants in that same country, and I started asking them, like, what's going on with the weather there? What's going on? Everybody else has no problem getting their work done that's in the same country as you. Just you. And then the final straw was her husband then had a heart attack and had to go into the hospital. So now I feel like you're playing on my emotions as a nurse, because you know, I know that these are, you know, these takes time. However, you're not putting out the work. I had to stop being nice and being emotional and like, listen, your personal life is affecting the outcome of your business. You are not meeting the demands. You are not meeting the objective. I even got to a point where I was like, what are you going to do this week? She would tell me what she was going to do the week. By the time Friday came, it was not done. We did that for 2 weeks, and it took her 4 weeks to finally create an ad. And the ad cost was like 400 times the amount it should have cost me. I knew that much. I knew this ad was costing me way too much money, and it was not the budget we talked about, and it was like, it was not geared towards the right audience. I knew that much. So I went to YouTube and I'm like, how do I do this professionally without spazzing? Because now I'm hurt emotionally because I feel played, I feel stupid, and I'm angry. I wasted my money with you. So it recommended that you do it face-to-face. So I would have loved to do it with her through our Zoom call. However, she's constantly having connectivity issues with her Wi-Fi. So it was hard for me to get her on a Zoom, or she would have to reschedule it, or we're in different time zones. So she would say, oh, she had the time wrong. It was a bunch of excuses, and I could not wait. What they recommended me to do and what I did was write a very lengthy email, and I have the email here. I've just looked it over and it pissed me off all over again. And I kept my feelings out of it. I made it very objective. This is what happened. This is what happened. This is what happened. So this is why I can't work with you. I didn't say, I feel that you're playing me. I feel like, you know, I'm a nurse and you trying to get over on me. I didn't put any of that in there. I said exactly what happened. On this date, you said your child had to go into the hospital. On this date, you said you couldn't make the Zoom meeting because of the internet. On this date, you said that there was flooding in your home. On this date, you said you had the time zone wrong, so we couldn't get on our Zoom call. On this date, you said your husband went into the hospital. That's literally just what I did, instead of just really getting upset like, yo, you trying to play me? You think I'm stupid? I spent all this money on you. Instead of doing all of that, I just said the facts very objectively and said, this is why I am terminating your contract. And in the heading of this email, it said, termination effective immediately. I also read over her contract before I stopped. I wrote this email, and one of the clauses in her own contract was she would provide the service to the best of her ability, and that was definitely not what she did. So I mentioned in my email, you have breached your own contract, and if you would like to take legal actions, I will get you in contact with the legal representative of Polished Appearance LLC. Honey, she never even replied. Never even replied, messaged, anything. Before I even sent this email, what I also did was disable all her access to all my accounts. There is an app called, I forgot the name of it, ClassPass, where you can give your assistants passwords without them having your login per se. Other things, I changed the passcode on. I had to lock her out before I sent the email, because you never know how people may become vindictive and vengeful, and I didn't want this to get messy. So before I sent the email, I made sure I locked her out of everything. She couldn't access anything and mess up anything for me. And then I sent this very objective email just stating the facts of the matter of our relationship. After I fired her, I felt so relieved, and I felt like, why did I take so long to do this? I should have let her go when she couldn't start on the right date, period. When she couldn't start, it took her 2 weeks past the start date. I should have just let it go and just not even got sympathetic about it. I'm sorry if your child really was in the hospital and your husband was really in the hospital and these things were really happening to you. However, that is not my business. I'm not a nurse right now. I am a business owner, and I have to do what's best for my business. I kept in contact with the other person I interviewed alongside of her, the guy, and I asked, was he still available? And he was. And within a week, we had a very effective ad up. Within a week. It took her 4 weeks with excuses to get an ad up. It took him about 6 days. And I was like, so let me tell you, don't ever feel like you're stuck with what you got. You stuck with that photographer. You're stuck with this web designer or whoever it is. There's a million fish in the sea. It does take some trial and error, yes, and that is frustrating. It's hard to find good help. I'm not gonna deny that, but you have options and you're in control, and this is your business. Do what's best for you. Don't take it personal. I don't care if you knew this person from church, you went to school with them, they from around the way, they also Black. Let me tell you something about that. I tried very hard to stick with only hiring Black people to work in my business, and that was not always what was best. I did not always get the best service, the best product, the best outcome. So try as much as you can. However, I do not fault you if you end up with, someone who is a white accountant. If that is what is working best for you, go with that. I say all that to say, don't be scared to fire people. Do it in a professional manner. It doesn't have to end in a cuss out, drag out, threats, fights, social media posts, subs, texts, screenshots on the internet. I didn't want it to be messy at all, and thankfully it wasn't. You gotta be the boss. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this was informative for someone who may need to get someone off their team. Make sure you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with another entrepreneur, and I'll see you next time.